Welcome back, everyone. It's Andrea Hill and Simon Severino. Today we talk good CRM, bad CRM, because the world is changing fast in the software world, as you know. And there are a few things that will surprise you guys. You might find out that the best CRM is the one you never bought. And Andrea and I, we are in the trenches with teams day in and day out. We're seeing how they're using CRM, how they're switching CRMs, if they're a CRM builder, how they're struggling to navigate the current waters. And we're seeing a few things that you will be surprised about. So welcome, Andrea.
Thank you, Simon.
What are you seeing in the CRM market right now that surprised you?
As a surprise, that companies are starting to realize that that they've either made a mess with their CRM and they don't know how to entangle it. We've been seeing it for a long time. Now the surprise is that companies are starting to recognize their CRMs aren't doing what they want them to do. And also that they're comparing their ROI with their current setup of their CRM, not with what the proper setup of their CRM could be doing for them.
So what is a proper setup for the listeners? How do they know they have a proper setup?
Well, if people use it, that's your starting point. If people aren't using the CRM, I mean, it could be resistance. We'll see like marketing teams are really willing to get in and use the CRM, whereas sales teams, they can be a lot more resistant. So once you get past just the people issues of people embracing a software, if you don't have a resistance issue and people aren't using the CRM, it's probably because it was not set up properly for their workflows.
Yes.
So that's the first thing. Are people using it?
Yes. And I'm one of these guys that was never using it. And if I was using it begrudgingly, right? Can somebody do this for me? And then when Claude Code came, I was so quick in canceling all CRMs. Not because I wanted to save money primarily, but because I wanted just to speak and have it happen. That's the dream, right? The Jarvis to every Ironman.
And the truth is, with any really well-coded modern CRM, you can speak and have a lot of things happen. So Claude's a cool tool and AI can do a lot of things. And if you are capable of recognizing all the ins and outs of how your business needs to work relative to the software that's powering it, more power to you. But for people who don't believe they can picture the entire sales and marketing workflow and do it in AI, which would be most people fairly, people should have confidence that any good CRM can work elegantly and simply, that the mistake tends to happen in the setup and the application of the CRM and not in the CRM itself. Most CRM problems are design and people problems from the usage side.
Yes.
Step back from it, declutter the workflows, and most CRM works pretty smoothly.
Yes.
Without a lot of effort.
I remember 10 years ago, my topic was what does work on the phone, because I wanted to use it on the road, not wait until I'm at my desk, right, to use it. And last month, it was like, which one just makes it happen? I don't even want to know where it is. And if it exists, I just want to know, who do I need to call today? Who needs an offer sent? Can you send an offer? Can you use the template, insert the 3 deliverables that we agreed upon, and send it?
So finish your thought, because I get really excited about this piece of the topic.
Yeah, those are the two. And then there's the third one, because I have this habit of making introductions every day. Every day before lunch, I want to make at least 1 or 2 introductions to 2 people who should meet each other, because they have the same client, but ADAs and complementary offers. And they're great people. So I want to introduce them to each other. I call this creating a triad, right? because I'm also, as the introducer, kind of part of that relationship. And so I create one triad every day, and after a few months, I run out of ideas, or I want just help in crafting a really good introduction, because it takes me so much cognitive load and bandwidth and time. And so those are really the three things that I need every day. Who should I follow up in the pipeline? Update this deal based on what we just agreed upon, like move them to the next stage in percentages, in probabilities. And then the third one is help me with introductions.
Yeah.
And in between, can you make it easy for me to send offers? I don't want to spend time to work on the offer. The time should be spent in the meeting, finding alignment, finding agreement, and finding commitment. That's where I want to spend all my heart and brain and presence and soul and everything, and being very, very present and professional. But I don't want to type anything in between meetings.
Right. So, okay, so I'll talk about a couple of tools that can help do that, but I just want to do a little quick caveat. We're a technology agnostic firm. So if I mention a software, I am not saying that is the only software that will do it for you. Okay. There's a lot of good software that will do some of the things I'm describing, but an example of some tool sets that can be used to take a lot of the cognitive and administrative load off of salespeople or business owners who are functioning as your primary salesperson, as you should. Here's some ways that it works. So one solution we implement a lot is HubSpot plus DialPad. So DialPad's this AI phone system. It's VoIP on steroids, right? And they've been powering with AI since like 15 years ago. Like they were really early into AI or LLM functionality before their time. So you've got a phone system that is actively transcribing your call as you're in the call, but it's also hooked to your CRM. And in the process, it can queue up the calls that you need to make that day. It can help you run through those calls in your own little call system format so that you're in your car driving and your phone system is helping you make those calls as you go. So you're not constantly looking through your spreadsheet. And then it's connecting directly with your CRM. In this case, it was HubSpot. And it's triggering automations as you go. So you can do your phone calls, have your meaningful conversations, have those conversations transcribed, logged to the contact level. Based on certain criteria of those calls, it can trigger automations that do follow up to those contacts for you based on the call. And then when you get back to your desk and you want to make sure that you're sending, you could, I mean, if you've got a simple offer, it could even trigger the proposal. If you have a more complex offer, all of your data is there from while you were driving through the countryside to your next appointment. It's recorded everything and it's prepared with a recommendation about what your offer should be. And then you just trigger the offer and it goes. It's also giving you a lot of, because it's transcribed the call, like the emotional or the psychological insight you need to decide, I'm going to send this version of the letter instead of that version of the letter because of the things that are important to them. I want to put those at the top of my communication. So you're driving, you're having great communications, everything is transcribed. It's triggering all the automations you can rationally trigger, and it's queuing up the information you need so that if there's something you have to do, it's the qualitative work, and then you're just pushing a button.
Mm-hmm.
That's all possible now.
Yes. And I guess this is a great idea for like mid-sized companies, like 50 people probably, or what is it, a 15 people sales team that loves outbound calls. That would be the perfect setting for that, right?
Does it? Well, it'll do it for inbound as well. Every time you grab a phone call, your system turns on. You just have them call into, your regular number, and it's doing the work for you as well. It can also catalog your new inbound calls as they come in. But where were you going with that? Are you worried about it not applying to a smaller business?
Small business, I would be wary that you are driving a Ferrari to go to the grocery store, because this will cost you now 30K, 50K a month in proper use. And HubSpot
Nope.
loves to lock in people you will never get out of their website and funnels ever again in your life.
HubSpot can lock you in, but you do not have to spend. No, that's your dollar value is way out of range to what it would be for the functionality I just described in Dialpad. And there are other systems that do this as well, other like soft VoIPs, but they don't have as much AI technology as Dialpad, which is why I brought it up. $25 a month per user.
Yeah.
That's nothing. And you can
Yeah.
do that with other CRMs as well.
You know what I found out? With Cloud Code, you can make up your CRM on the fly. So ours is now in Notion, which is not a CRM at all, it's just a database.
It's just a database.
So you could theoretically do it with every database, but it needs to be one where Cloud Code can write, and read easily and quickly and token efficiently. So if you just say, build my CRM, but I'm with you, you have to know what you're building. So I am, and you are also like that. I know that we obsess with being very precise how we call the deal stages and
Yes.
how we give them probabilities, right, in percentage. So if you have 100,000 deals, one deal of a size of 100,000, and you move it in a stage that has a 40% probability of success, then you want to see that 40K, because that's the only reliable pipeline number you will have. And otherwise, you 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 can't sleep well. You shouldn't sleep well, not knowing what's going on in your pipeline. So you have to know what you're doing. But if you have a process, any process that really works and you can rely on, right now you can make it on the fly. At least that's my experience so far. And the question mark was, is it safe enough? So can you actually protect client data in there? We are in Europe, so GDPR comes in. You have to
Very
be
important.
very protective.
And oncoming, there's additional AI legislation that's being developed in Europe. Europe's really leading the way with AI guardrails. So you have to really pay attention to how that keeps changing as well.
Correct. And so it does. You can protect client data. You can have all these four things. Who should I follow up? Can you draft an email, etc.? And this whole thing runs at $200 a month. So solopreneurs listening, that might be something interesting for you guys.
You know, I'm a big fan of AI. We implement AI right and left, multiple tools. So I'm not trying to be a downer on the whole. You can build it yourself in AI. It's just very important that businesses recognize, or business owners recognize, do I really understand all of the foundations of a sales process, for instance? If you don't, then it's really helpful to just focus on your business and let a system that has all those foundations built in provide that foundation for you. Like, I'm good enough to hem my own jeans, but if I had to sew my own dress, my sleeve would fall off walking somewhere in public, right? Just because you know how to sew doesn't mean you can sew a dress. Just because you can change your own oil doesn't mean you can rebuild your engine. So it's really important, and this is more of a strategy comment, that business owners understand what they do know and what they don't know and focus their energy on driving value on the things they know. Because if you start trying to build your own CRM from scratch, you don't really understand all the foundations, you're going to waste a bunch of time and you're not going to get your value. And then, Simon, what's your opportunity cost of $200 a month?
That's enormous. But if you don't know what sales is, should you be in business? I want to help them.
I'm sorry, that's like 80% of business owners went in because they knew how to make something, or they knew how to manage a certain type of department, and they said people need this product or this service. Or they know how to do this service. How many accountants do we know are really good at accounting but have no idea how to sell their accounting business?
Yeah.
That's the typical entrepreneur. I had been running mid-sized corporations, $1 billion a year, and had never personally taken a sales course in my life. I'd managed sales departments. I didn't know half of what I was supposed to know. It was only when I opened my own company and I went and got formal sales training that I was like, I wish I'd known this all along. So, in fairness, most people own businesses without knowing how to sell.
So let's help them a little bit. What should be in your CRM? What's a good CRM? And which mistakes should they avoid?
So you want to start again with the thinking. So most of the CRMs in the market, I don't care which one it is. It could be HubSpot, it could be Keep, it could be Go High Level, it could be Zoho. Pick a CRM, Odoo. They will all do all the basics of what you need to do at very different price points and with very different interfaces. You have to start by being clear about what decisions you want this system to support. So do you want it to support sales pipeline visibility? Or do you want it to support sales forecasting? Or do you want it to support customer retention or pricing discipline? Pricing discipline's a huge thing for most entrepreneurs who have a sales team working for them. Nobody maintains the same pricing discipline as the owner, or something else. So be really clear about what decisions you want your CRM to support. If you can't name what decisions you want the system to support, you're going to end up with a data warehouse instead of a working system that drives your sales forward. So that's your starting point. Also, be really humble about what you don't know. Like, figure out what you don't know. Like, I may know I want my CRM to do marketing automations, but I may also know that my sales knowledge is weak. Talk to somebody, do some research, find out what your CRM could do to improve your sales process, because it may really surprise you all the things you can do to sell better that a system can help you do. So be clear about what the system needs to do and what you need to, how you might want to develop in the future as you get smarter.
That's what I need from a CRM. I want to know, of the emails that I sent today, which one hit a nerve so that we use, and which part was it, the subject line, was it the call to action? Because I want that to quickly be available to all other people. So maybe that was a salesperson who sent an email, and maybe an hour later, somebody in the marketing department is writing a LinkedIn post, or is trying to craft a good headline for the next public event, for a webinar. So I want them to have this information. Hey, from that email, we as a company learned that this word resonates with your folks. And if it's in the first sentence, it works better than if it's in the seventh sentence. So maybe this should be in the headline of the event. That kind of self-learning loop, or that cross-pollination, that when a part learns, the whole system learns.
So you're referring to the fact that a good CRM has to support the process of continuous improvement. You were referring specifically to A/B testing in marketing, but a good CRM needs to support the testing and review of everything you do. That means it has to track granular data points and allow you to test data points against each other. If a CRM doesn't allow you to do that kind of A/B testing, you won't be able to do that kind of continuous improvement.
Correct. And you need to have an end-to-end process rather than, from here to here, that's the email data and the email department, and then that's the event department, and that's a different silo. And so there are so many separations in the data, because there is so much separation in how humans design their work.
And companies, we design our companies in too many silos. So there you're referring to something. If you're looking for a CRM, make sure it supports end-to-end attribution. Attribution's the word people are looking for when you're looking for software. If it can't attribute from the earliest lead, whether it was, something that came in from Sales Navigator on LinkedIn, turned into a lead in your CRM, all the way through to posting the sale. If it can't support that end-to-end insight, it's not a sufficient CRM.
Yes. And that's the hardest part for most people that I talk to. They say, I don't really know where people come from. I mean, we had this event, we had this YouTube thing, we had a book, but I don't really know where they came from.
So once again, most modern CRMs, no, that's not true. About many of the modern CRMs will do a good job of supporting end-to-end attribution. Many of them actually require you to hook other third-party systems to it to trace your attribution all the way through. So you and either of those solutions can be good. You could be using Claude for part of your process and a CRM for part of your process and flowing into a point of sale system or your website for online sales, however you structure your business. The problem is a lot of business owners don't know how to picture end-to-end attribution themselves. So even if your system supports attribution from lead to sale, if you can't picture how to connect those pieces together, you owe it to yourself to get some help to map out that process and make sure that you've set up the system to do it. Because just because a system can do it doesn't mean it will if you haven't set it up to track your actual leads and sales.
Yes. And in the past, I would have to talk to 5 different agencies and I would get 7 different recommendations and I was even
And then they
more
point
confused.
fingers at each other.
Yes, they're not totally compatible to each other. So you end up maybe with buying a CRM that does not speak to that specific third-party data that you wanna connect to it. And
Yep.
then, oh my God, we took the wrong decision. Should we go back? No, we have invested so much time already into building this, and we had an infrastructure problem. That was the second really big surprise about using Cloud Code, that it took us an hour to make major infrastructure migrations. It would have been just 3 weeks of pre-preparation, like pre-project, and then 3 weeks project to migrate such an infrastructure piece, right? All the data, and you have to be careful, right? So many decisions in there, and protection and security, etc. And it took an hour, and it was well organized by our CTO, who is an AI, Boris.
The cool thing about all these AI tools is that AI is really numerate. It really is good at sorting through numbers and telling you the truth of numbers in a way that most people today are not numerate. So yeah, we can look at a spreadsheet and draw some basic conclusions, but it's really hard for most people, if you're not trained in it, to look for the patterns underneath the data or the inconsistencies in the data. And when you've got your closed, it's got to be closed because you've got to protect your data. This is your competitive value here. But if you're in a closed system and you're rolling all your numbers into that closed system, you can trust an AI tool to crunch those numbers faster than even your top analyst can do. And
Yes,
then data migration becomes easier because it can actually see where the inconsistencies are in your data.
yes. And if you are not technical, or if you don't have a very technical person on your team, this can be super overwhelming.
Uh-huh.
We tried a few times to set up cold email campaigns, and we stopped after a few months because it was so tiresome. You had to click, 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 and it was terrible. It was like getting a PhD into clicking. Uh, we we surrendered. We said, okay, no, we're not technical enough for this. And then when we started using Cloud Code, we said, okay, is there anything that you can click and do? And he said,
Mhm.
sure, I can set up make IO automation. I said, you can do all that clicking for us? And so it just did it. And machine to machine, they had no friction at all. We had all that friction, we humans, but it worked flawlessly. And then a week later, the Anthropic team came in with this feature where they do it on their own. It's called a routine task. So you don't need even anything else to do automations. And then we were doing it inside. And then I said, okay, is there anything that you can use now if you want to A/B test and write 3 versions of a campaign without me having to type it? I will just tell you. And it says, sure, I work well with Hunter.io. I work well with Instantly. And I said, okay, set them up. 10 minutes later, set up. I said, try this angle, this angle, this angle. This is the call to action. This is the ICP. And an hour later, it was up and running.
Yep. But you're doing some things really right there, Simon, that I think people need to hear. Because when we talk about AI, what people hear is AI will do it, AI will do it, AI will do it. And it will, and it'll do it fast. I want people to hear the other part of what you're saying. Because you also said, I knew what I wanted the system to do, but it was too much clicking. you knew what you wanted the system to do. You knew that process, that strategic structure that would make your data work better for you. When you talked about getting it to write the versions for your A/B testing, or ABC in this case, you knew what parameters you wanted to test and why. If you don't understand what your inputs need to be for the AI tools to work correctly for you, AI will make a lot of mistakes really fast. So don't just hear that AI will do it really fast. It's true, it will, but you have to define your problems and your expectations and your parameters and even your subtle little variables so well that AI can do what you want it to do really fast and not just something else really fast.
You're hitting the nail on the head, because 2 weeks later, it wasn't working. So it was doing a lot of things, but it wasn't really working. And so I had this conversation with Boris. I said, Boris, you're sending all these emails, but they're not doing what they're supposed to do. And then I realized I never told them what the goals are. And because I thought, okay, goals, that's a thing of the past, they are made up. It's true. It's true. But also, these things are computers, and computers need a direction. Otherwise, agents will get too creative and too all over the place.
And
They
they're
are
literal.
unpredictable.
They're
They're
really
unpredictable.
literal as
Yeah.
well.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
So if you're not, if you have a friend who's super literal and you've learned how to like say things in such a way that the conversation doesn't go off the rails
Yes.
quickly, AI is that friend. So
Yes.
it's like, you can't use words in loose ways. You have to use words in
Yes.
really specific ways.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And sometimes it drinks and it makes up URLs.
It does. It gets a little carried away.
I said,
And you call it on it and it says, oh, I'm sorry.
yes. Oh, it will never happen again. How do I know that it doesn't happen again? Because it happened twice now. So you have to push back, and you have to create hard rules and boundary conditions. Now we have a boundary condition. You cannot make up URLs. It used to do it.
Oh yeah, yeah. If you don't have that as what we call a persistent preference in whatever engine you're using, and even then, like I have a whole document for each of our clients. First of all, we have a general document of persistent preferences. That it can't use any, like how AI systems like to use a negative to juxtapose against a
Yeah.
positive. It's this, it's that. That's a very AI behavior. We have a persistent preference across all of our systems that say never do that. Here's here are the rules. You cannot make up a URL. Anytime you give us an answer, you have to validate it with a link to where you got the answer from. So those are your global persistent preferences. And then for every agent that we build, like we build an agent for every client, we build agents for major projects. Within each agent, there's also a set of persistent preferences. So you've got your global and your more downstream persistent preferences. And then we maintain those in documents, and we still have to tell every AI agent regularly, go back and review all our persistent preferences.
Yes.
Because it will forget.
It will. In our case, it only reads the Claude MD all the time, but not every memory MD and not every single
Correct.
project file or task file or markdown
Yep.
file. And it did it again. It made up a Calendly link, and I said, you cannot do this. Now stop. We have to go one level deeper. Let's look at the architecture layers below this. Show me the memory layers. Show me where you save things. When I say lesson, where exactly is that lesson? Show me the markdown file. And so I had to stop operations and go deeper into this to understand it better, because I'm not a mechanic of these things. So I had to go down really into the lab and look for myself and get smarter and understand what are the memory levels. Turns out there are 7 memory layers, and I was using the wrong one, and I was not double checking myself. I was just trusting that it does it. I learned not to trust anymore. They have to prove over time that they can run quality control. And if they can't, that means you have to introduce a chain. Now I call it agent advisor chain. So an agent can do things, but I expect it to be only 75% right. There is an advisor that pushes it back and says, well, improvement 1, 2, 3. That's what I expect from you. Do a second round. And after 2, 3, 4 rounds, it will be good enough that it can go out to a client. Never accept first round output of an agent.
Mm-mm. And always validate the information it's giving you. But that takes us back to our whole good CRM, bad CRM question. And is the best CRM for you the one you've never bought? So you're speaking to a lot of native knowledge that you've built. You've invested in understanding how to make AI systems work for you. You're also monetizing that. For somebody who's running a coaching business, a finance business, like an advisory, an accounting business, pick a business. They're selling the thing they know how to do. I know how to run a gym. I know how to, give professional advice. They need to monetize that. And so then the question is, where are you going to spend your time getting your business to run? If it's cheaper to buy the AI system, but you have to develop this entire skill set in order to maximize it, where's your opportunity cost? Are you better off in a CRM system that somebody else has, 700 developers working on or 200 developers working on to keep the software constantly updated and doing what a CRM is supposed to do? And you pay for that development bench, your fraction of it, and AI tools are embedded in it, and you can do what you know how to do. Or are you going into system building as your expertise? This is not a new problem. Back in, I don't know, the 1990s, we had people saying, I don't need to buy an ERP system. I can develop my own entire ecosystem of spreadsheets. Well, how much time did they spend building spreadsheets versus selling and running their business? So there are some people out here who really get how to build all these structures and can build them in an AI system. More power to them. If that's not your skill set, don't worry about it. You can buy the software that will do the structure and use AI tools in a less infrastructure manner and still get huge value out of using AI. And that's just what I want people to recognize, because not everybody knows how to do system architecture. And you're describing system architecture behaviors.
Yes. And 4 months ago, I wouldn't even know what it is on this granularity layer. By the time something changed 3 months ago, when Cloud Code came out, because now it's kind of easy to and quick for a non-technical person to grasp it, and it's safe enough to try. I think this is what's changed.
Everyone should play with it. I agree with that. It's something you should understand and play with.
Now, you mentioned ERP. What's the difference ERP to CRM for our listeners?
So CRM is really taking you through that sales and marketing life cycle, all the way from a lead to a sale. It manages your sales pipelines, manages your sales automations, helps you do sales outreach at scale. So everything looks like a personal outreach, but you can really have a lot of automation behind it and do that same outreach to 100 people at a time, 40 people at a time, whatever your scale is. But it looks like everything's a personal outreach. It's not all marketing e-blasts, but it can do marketing e-blasts, all the A/B testing, and sales pipelines taking you all the way through to closing sales. That's a CRM system. Some CRM systems will go into the onboarding process, which is getting into customer service and support. Some CRMs won't. ERP is taking the work of your business at the underpinnings, the accounting level. So if you sell products, say you make products, it's going to take it from the raw materials, roll those costs all the way up into finished goods, track your margins, and take it all the way into your accounting system, so that you've got financial control of your business at a very granular level, just by doing things like producing a sales order, producing a purchase order, producing a customer service. So ERP is more the financial operating system of a business. Some ERP systems have a CRM in them, some do not, or they have very limited CRM. So those are the two different types of systems.
And some of the well-known ones, the biggest one in Europe is SAP. It's the CRM house. And You know what's interesting? They they had earnings recently, and I was listening to them because it tells me something about the economy and what's happening in the space. And this is one of the most, traditional, resilient, you might even
Mhm.
say defensive um, places, because it's the core backbone of the economy that doesn't change week by week. But the numbers went down. They went
Mhm.
down because some people like me think they can make up their own stuff. So there is now some mid-sized, because if it's just the small guys, it doesn't show up in the earnings of SAP. So it must be mid-sized companies that go, I'm gonna try it myself, or I'm just gonna grab less seats and do some workarounds. Now, I see
I
in your
wouldn't draw
face,
the
oh my
I
God,
wouldn't
will it
draw the
work?
same I wouldn't draw the same conclusions because if you're a mid-sized corporation, you're not going to put your entire accounting and financial backbone at risk. So what we're seeing in the ERP world, it's true SAP's numbers went down. Um, During times of economic stress and geopolitical tension, we see all software investments go down across the board, and that's just been true in every cycle. Um, what they're doing is they're not investing in employees, which means they don't need more seats, or they're not investing in system upgrades. They're holding off on upgrades.
Yeah.
But
And
we
it,
have,
and you can do with less seats the same thing, because you augment that one seat with some LLMs. So you have now, instead of three people running your whole ERP system, you have
we
the
are seeing
one
reduction in
one person
workforce. Yep.
augmented.
Yep, you can definitely do that. And all of the ERP systems, the good ones, you name SAP, there's also Sage X3, there's also Great Plains, not Great Plains, Microsoft Dynamics. That's how old I am. I went back to Great Plains. There's also NetSuite. There's a lot of ERPs. An affordable one for small businesses is Odoo, and it will do everything these big ones will do. So, but if you don't understand all of the accounting implications of your operations, you do not want to try to replace it with AI because you have to understand sales and marketing. Not, I know how to go make a sales call, but I understand the theoretical underpinnings and how they work together of sales and marketing. Then you have to understand all of production and what all the production processes are. Then you have to understand inventory and supply chain. Then you have to understand how all of that relates to accounting and all of the accounting detail. Now, when you're using an ERP, you don't have to understand all that. You need to make a purchase order, receive the purchase order, sell the product, book the sale. But if you try to make that system, you have to understand a lot of things that most business owners don't understand. What's happening in the ERP world is that they're implementing a lot of AI technology. All the ERPs I just named, they're implementing a lot of AI technology to augment the workers using the seats. And that is where seat capacity is going down. And some of the investment in ERP is going down, along with people holding back on upgrades and hiring. So, but I don't see, and I would not recommend anyone replacing their ERP with an AI because the business risk would just be too dramatic.
You have to really think about where you put your attention, right?
You do.
And
You do.
core first, and then the rest. Uh, Today I was thinking about some of my core systems. Like, my core is running workshops, because that's how we solve client problems. Like, we get them into a room, and we start moderating the conversation on what's the most important problem to solve right now, what's the highest leverage partnership, what's the biggest breakthrough that we should go for this week. And then you have to start moderating all these things in between. And again, Cloud Code was my lifesaver, because, as you know, you start discussing this with an executive team, and then 5 minutes later, it adds a completely different spin and direction than you thought 10 minutes before. Because they have information from their countries, their ERP, their source of truth that you didn't have in preparation. And so right now, I have to change the whole trajectory of the next 3 hours. So what I do is say, okay, guys, let's have a break, grab a coffee, and then I go to Claude and say, okay, based on what we just heard, how do we pivot the direction? What's the best change to make right now? And it helps me being 3 times faster or even 5 times faster than I used to be, because it can
Mhm.
catch patterns in language so well,
That's right.
and also numbers. Like they throw reports at me, like this market report, that spreadsheet, that ERP report, and I go, oh my god, I can't open this CSV, etc. And so I put it all into Claude, and it goes 1, 2, 3, and I go, oh my god.
And that's the most powerful application of AI. You're using it to help you distill information and think. You're not telling the AI how to do the operational side of the business. You're saying, help me distill a bunch of information and get clear quickly. Really good use of it.
And get context. If you
Mhm.
think the day of an executive, like you, like many executives, is context switching, you were thinking about an ERP decision. Then you have 2 minutes to go to the next meeting. In the next meeting, you are asked, should we hire a new HR person? And then in the next meeting, context switch again. And if there is a new employee and they start talking to you, you go, wait. First, tell me the context, right? Get me into the right frame, brief me. So you're context switching all the time,
All day long.
all day long, which can be quite tiring, but that's part of the job. And I find that all these briefings, I need to get briefed all the time.
Mhm.
And this is now done by Cloud Call because there is always one or multiple terminals in front of me briefing me for the next thing.
It's a really useful approach to AI. It's helping you think better because you are still going to think better than AI. That human creativity, what the human mind can do, taking all these different contexts and coming up with a new idea that another company hasn't done before, that's here. This is your competitive advantage. But crunching all the data to go into it so you can have better context, better summary, AI tools are fabulous for that.
And back to CRM, what's a good CRM? It's one that helps you with exactly these transitions, these context
Exactly.
switches, not forgetting stuff. I forget so many things in between
Mhm.
meetings, and then the day is over. And then 3 a.m. in the morning, I go, oh my God, I forgot to send that thing.
Yep.
And I don't want that. I want to actually sleep and know that it's taken care of. You know, that I have so many little project managers for each for each end-to-end workflow that will take care of it. That I can forget something, it will resurface at the right point before it's too late. And so that's what a CRM does,
It,
right?
it, and when you set it up properly, it will. But again, most of the shortcomings in the way CR, I can't tell you how often we get called into a company and they're on Salesforce or they're on HubSpot or they were on Infusionsoft or, pick, we're even seeing it with Go High Level, and that's a new system. It's a mess. And it's not because the underlying software is a mess. It's because cluttered minds came up with, that sounds so judgy, but people with only a piece of the context set up their piece of the system and it doesn't work across the whole system, or it works in a more complicated way than it needed to. And that's how we think about the way we set up our business flows. So you have to be really clear on what the most simple business flows are and set up the system to do it. If your team is going to mess up the setup of a basic CRM system that was designed to do this, you have to worry about going in and setting up your own AI. You could create the same messes in there. So the best CRM is one that's set up nice and clean and simple to do exactly what your business does. And you cannot scale without system simplicity.
And this is another thing that I'm learning right now as we speak, that we have designed work for humans. And humans are not great at creating explicit documentation, like at getting everything out of our head and into a structured, documented way. So most of us, we work in a way, we do stuff how we do it because it works. We grow as a company and we keep doing it. But all this knowledge is in our head rather than in markdown files. Forget markdown files. It's maybe in some PDFs, but it's
If
mostly
it's
in our
there.
head.
Well, not just that, it's not only in our head, but it's based on a ton of assumptions.
Mhm.
And if you're not constantly challenging your own assumptions, the world is changing, technology is changing, business is changing, markets are changing. Your assumptions, if you're not challenging them, are not changing. And you could still be making decisions that made sense in 1999, but no longer make sense today. The assumption was correct back then, but it's not correct now. All that information in our head is at risk of being very assumption driven.
Yeah. And I was thinking a lot about this in client project, but also in our own team. And I was like, oh, there's a ton of stuff that's just in my head. How can this become explicit knowledge that all other colleagues and agents can build upon?
Mhm.
And so one thing is to use transcripts in a markdown way. We use Granola because it listens to everything my whole day and it documents it
Mhm.
so that it can be actually explicit knowledge. So which decisions did we take and why? Not just which decisions, but why did we decide that way? So for example, you get new inquiries from clients into your inbound CRM, and they go, I want this, but I wanted the left side instead of the right side. And you decide, no, I'm not offering that because I shouldn't offer so many variations of something. Well, why? Why not? How this? What is the reason for this decision? What are the guardrails? Can you really explain them so that they become a repeatable process for everybody else? You mentioned discounts, right? Uh, if you don't explain what are the guardrails around discounts and why we don't do discounts or how we do discounts, and everybody will do whatever they want just to get the sign off. So we have to make these things explicit, all the why, and we will not stop and sit down and think explicitly about this. Who has time for that? It's not a philosophical seminar, it's a business, right? So it can only be extrapolated actually by agents, but you can point agents to all meetings recordings and say, extrapolate the decisions, the parameters, find a common language for these decisions
Yep.
and
Give the reasons
create.
and benefits.
Yes.
Like always, we mean to tell our employees the reasons and benefits for things, but then we get going really fast and we don't have time. And it's like, yes, do this. No, don't do that.
Yeah.
So when I'm doing an employee communication, I will use AI and say, hey, give me the 3 bullet points of the most important reasons. Or these are the reasons and benefits I want this. Turn this into something that's not a novel. Because when people understand the reasons and benefits for things, they do them.
Yes. And that's something that I wanna share next week when we come together again, because we don't have so much time anymore. But turns out this is an ontology, a layer in between your action system and your memory system, where you have all these decisions and reasons for decisions and guardrails and assumptions, but in a written way. And you don't have to write them down. You can have the AI elicitate them,
For you.
basically document them for you, which is a great help. I learned so
Mhm.
much in this episode from you, Andrea. Thank you for being here. And I'm excited what we report from the field next week.
All right. Thank you.
Bye bye.
Bye.